Okay, do me a favor. When I say the word werewolf, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Just picture it.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's stuff like this, right? The full moon hanging in the sky, silver bullets being the only thing that can stop it, and, that agonizing, bone-snapping change from human to beast. These are pretty much the rules we all know today.
But here's the kicker. What if I told you that the original werewolf myth had, well, none of that? No full moon connection, no weakness to silver, and the transformation wasn't always some horrible curse. To really get where this legend comes from, we have to peel back the layers and go way, way back.
All right, so let's do this. Our journey starts, well, it doesn't even start with a story. It starts with a feeling. A really primal awe for the animal world that's, way older than any written language we have. So the first little breadcrumbs of the werewolf idea actually pop up in two totally different places. On one side, you've got prehistoric art showing shamans as these human-animal hybrids. They're trying to embody the spirit of the wolf, to connect with the wild. But then on the other hand, over in Mesopotamia, you get this wild man archetype, kind of like Enkidu from the Epic of Gilgamesh. He's this symbol of the untamed world that, has to be brought into civilization.
So you have these two primal ideas floating around, the spiritual connection and the wild man. And they set the perfect stage for the first real werewolf stories, born out of the fury of the gods and the ambition of warriors.
And you can actually trace this evolution pretty clearly. We start with those hazy, prehistoric spiritual concepts. Then we get the wild man archetype in Mesopotamia. And from there, boom, the first big concrete werewolf myth is born in ancient Greece, before it morphs into something totally different in the Norse sagas. Okay, so let's talk about that first big werewolf story. It comes from the Greeks, and it's all about a king named Lycaon. This guy decides to test the gods by serving them human flesh, a huge, horrific no-no. Zeus, who's there in disguise, is absolutely enraged, but he doesn't just strike him down. No, the punishment fits the crime. He curses Lycaon to become the very savage beast his actions reflected. And just like that, the werewolf is born, as a divine punishment for being arrogant and cruel.
But then you head north, and the Norse, they had a completely different spin on it. For their warriors, like Sigmund and Sinfjotli in the sagas, becoming a wolf wasn't a curse, it was a superpower. They literally put on enchanted wolf skins to get the animal's strength and ferocity for battle. See the difference? It was a chosen strategic power, not some tragic, unwanted punishment from the gods.
Okay, so as Europe moves into the Middle Ages, the whole myth takes a really dark, sinister turn. Christianity is on the rise, and all those old pagan ideas, they get reframed. The old gods become demons, and their magic becomes devil's work. All of a sudden, the werewolf isn't a cursed king or a powerful warrior anymore. Nope, now it's a servant of the devil. And you can see it right in the name itself. The Old English term werewolf literally just means man-wolf. It's so direct, and it shows you just how concrete this belief had become. This wasn't a metaphor anymore. For people back then, this was a terrifying physical reality. And the ways you could become one, they just exploded. This wasn't about making Zeus mad anymore. Now it was about making a direct pact with the devil, or rubbing on some magic salve, or, famously, wearing an enchanted belt made of wolfskin. The werewolf got completely tangled up in all the fear surrounding witchcraft and demonology. And this wasn't just talk. This had horrifying real-world consequences. I mean, in 1598, a guy named Jacques Roulet was literally put on trial and condemned as a werewolf in France. Think about that. This wasn't just a scary bedtime story anymore. This was evidence being used in courtrooms, evidence that led to people being executed. So that's a pretty dark place. How in the world did we get from demonic pacts and witch trials to the monster we know and, let's be honest, kind of love today? Well, for that, we have to thank the storytellers, first in books, and then, most importantly, on the big screen. Gothic literature really shifted the focus from the outside in. The horror wasn't just the monster itself, but the whole vibe, the atmosphere. Just like this quote says, the crumbling castles and windswept landscapes weren't just scenery. They were a reflection of the character's inner chaos. The werewolf became this powerful symbol for the beast we all have inside of us. But really, it was Hollywood that put the final stamp on the modern myth. We're talking about Universal's 1941 classic, The Wolfman. This movie gave us the whole package.
The tragic hero, Larry Talbot, played so brilliantly by Lon Chaney Jr., who is just a good guy who doesn't want to be a monster. This is the film that really locked in the idea that you get it from a bite, and that the full moon is the trigger. And as filmmaking tech got better, the on-screen transformation got a major upgrade. First, you have 1981's An American Werewolf in London, which used these mind-blowing practical effects to show us a truly painful, visceral change. I mean, you felt the bones crack, you saw the skin stretch. It was a biological nightmare. Then you fast forward a couple decades to movies like Underworld, and CGI gives us something totally new. These sleek, rapid, powerful transformations that are less about agony and more about the raw power of the beast. And that pretty much brings us right up to today, because now we don't just watch the werewolf anymore, we figured out ways to become it. Video games have totally flipped the script on our relationship with this myth. Now you're the one in control. You decide when to transform, you pick your wolf abilities from a skill tree, and most importantly, you have to live with the consequences of your monstrous actions. It's not a passive story anymore. It's this interactive balancing act between your human side and your beast side. And it's not just in games. There's this massive global fan culture that keeps the legend alive and kicking. You've got conventions, tabletop role-playing games, sprawling online communities. It's a place where enthusiasts are constantly sharing art and stories, reimagining the myth and making it their own. So that brings us to the big question. After thousands of years evolving from cave paintings to CGI and video games, why? Why does this creature still have such an incredible hold on our imagination? I think at the end of the day, the werewolf endures because it's really a story about us. It is the perfect, timeless metaphor for that struggle we all feel, that constant battle between our civilized, rational selves and our primal, untamed instincts. And that leaves us with one last kind of chilling thought to chew on. For all of human history, transformation was a myth. But now we have things like genetic engineering that give us the power to literally rewrite the code of life itself. So what happens when that line between myth and reality starts to blur? What happens when we finally have the tools to truly unleash the beast within?